All right, guys. Today we have Ali Schwanke on the Revenue Rebels pod today. She's the CEO of Simple Strat, a marketing sales firm focused on helping you grow your business. Among the many things that Ali's company does is figuring out how you can best set up your HubSpot so you can maximize growth. She's run the company for almost 9 years now, so she has a lot of experience. And Simple Strat is a Diamond Solutions partner and hosts HubSpot Hacks, the #1 unofficial YouTube channel for HubSpot Tutorials. It's got 25,000 subscribers. So we're going to be talking about two things with Ali, very simply. Cover the basics that help you set up your growth using HubSpot. Then, on top of that, what do you build? Ali, it's really nice to see you and super excited to get started.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, so we can just start with basics. What are some of the basics to set up in HubSpot so you can maximize your growth?
Yeah, it's interesting that we're recording this literally the day before I'm teaching a HubSpot Super Admin Bootcamp for the HubSpot Academy. And so we're going through this entire process of auditing a portal. And so, the thing that I typically say is that your best CRM strategy starts on a whiteboard or on a Miro board or on a Lucidchart or something. It doesn't start in the tool. And that's hard sometimes for people that are want to jump in and kind of set stuff up. And especially executives that are like, well, HubSpot said it's easy. You can set this up in a week, right? Yeah, that's not going to be the case. But the first thing you want to start with is, understanding what you want to do with it. And so usually what I'll do is I'll look at every single hub that someone will have, or if they've already purchased it. And I'll look at things like, what does your team need to be doing if they didn't have the tool? How do they do it in the tool? What sort of features do we have? Are we using them or are we not? If we want to use AI, what does our data structure look like? So you really kind of got to start with the basics, just like we were saying before we started recording. If you go to the gym, you got to know what machines you're going to use because you got to know what you want to achieve while you're there. You don't get bigger biceps by running on the treadmill. You got to go lift weights, right? So that's kind of how I think about approaching that.
I think we're wondering if you could give us an example of one of your favorite B2B SaaS companies that has done a really good job setting up HubSpot, and maybe what are 2 or 3 of the really cool things that they've done that have been really successful.
Yeah, when you have a SaaS product, I think the understanding how people buy your product and how you accommodate for that in the sales process, the marketing process, and then the service, you go all the way through. So, really good setup. Let's assume you've got product market fit, right? So I think one of the challenges that we face when we're setting up a CRM or a marketing automation, sales automation program is when you're first kind of getting to market, you change and you pivot so fast that standardizing and moving that is going to be a challenge. Once you've got that product market fit and you're really trying to scale, it's understanding what are the key points that people take in your software, like product-led growth. What are key points that they take that allow you to, really kind of know that person is sticky, and then you can use that as a customer health score to help them predict what that might look like in their sales process. You start to find what types of templates are standardized when it comes to onboarding or when it comes to outreach. And so you start doing that more effectively. We definitely have seen companies use webinars more effectively because they know the types of people that come in and they can just automate all of that nurture to get to a demo as opposed to spending sales time on that. So, some of the reports that you're able to pull and see, I think it's both setting up the tool and some of the necessary properties and integrations with tools like Apollo and Seamless or Zoom Info so that you have a constant enrichment of data going on. But at the same time, you're going to take that a step back and say, okay, how do I make sure that this is all clean going forward using things like Ops Hub and some of the integrations there. So kind of in a nutshell, I would say that the best SaaS companies have figured out that the key product qualifiers that they have that actually move business forward, and they spend all their time optimizing for that and not kind of just the noise that exists around it.
Nice. I know that after the acquisition of Clearbit by HubSpot, they're now starting to offer some data enrichment and cleansing tools within HubSpot for HubSpot users. What's live and what should sort of folks look out for to make best use of the Clearbit data?
Yeah, actually, so when that first happened, they just actually announced another acquisition this last week on a CPQ tool, but I think a lot of us were trying to figure out what's going to happen with it. And at the last Inbound, they announced that now Clearbit is somewhat deeply integrated into this Breeze intelligence in the platform. So think about going into, again, let's say that I'm going to use a gym analogy. You walk into a gym and you instantly have, if you just say, I want a program for running, and suddenly you go to the treadmill and the program's there. That's kind of how it's making Breeze Intelligence happen inside of HubSpot, because you can simply buy credits to enrich your data right inside the platform. And before it was based on what's called HubSpot Insights. Now it's based on the Clearbit. And so you got the accuracy goes up a ton. And you do have to pay for that. So I think that's one of those challenges in having the platform is Are we ready to pay for that? How accurate is it? Because there's always a level of inaccuracy in data anywhere. Just people change jobs. That's how it happens. But that's coming out. And then there's also all these different agents that are being rolled out throughout the entire platform. So just like we're seeing co-pilots and things kind of come into different, like Microsoft, for example, you're seeing that inside the HubSpot interface. So the goal, I think, is how do I operate in an environment where AI helps me understand my data? Whereas you have to go in and tell it what you want, but AI is going to help you interpret it and enrich it. So that's in there now. It's all in beta. And so you can actually get access to it if you request that, but most of them are in public or private beta.
I'll bet you that most of our customers don't have no idea about the HubSpot AI Copilot. They're still working on the basics. Coming back to the data itself, what are some of the properties that you find yourself continuously adding for the clients that you consult?
Yeah. So usually my questions come back to so they'll say, I know I should be getting more out of HubSpot, or I should be using it smarter, or we should be doing more with it, right? And so I say, what do you want to do? They say, well, I really don't know what's possible. And I say, okay, forget the tool for a second. Let's say that you were going to get the right communication to the right people at the right time. What would that look like? And so if that happens to be, we've got a lot of people that have been in our system. I'll give you an example from yesterday. They do a lot of events where they get people in their funnel, and every time they come in the funnel, they're not ready to buy, but they're really engaged at that time. Well, they just they take this assessment and they just kind of sit there. So what we need to know in order to nurture them properly is, what were their pain points coming into this assessment? So now when they take this assessment, we set up a property that gets automatically filled on the backside so that we know the context of what they converted at when they first came in. So now when they get quote unquote nurtured down the way, it looks like we understand them more, but it's because we know what their conversion point was. So I think a lot of times we take a step back and we say, in properties, what do you need to know in order to segment to get to the right person at the right time with the right content? And those properties may vary, but a lot of times it's like pain point, context, industry, job title, some of the basics, but job role I've found is much more important than job title. So we actually use a job role property in our CRM too.
Awesome. And just a quick follow-up with this, right message to the right person at the right time. Is there a way in HubSpot you can just map or maybe orchestrate some way? If they hit this point, then you do fire this. If they hit this, then you fire that. If they hit this, then you fire that. Is like, how does that all get set up?
Yeah, there's a lot of things you can do. And I know even like depending on if you're using HubSpot alone or HubSpot with Warmly, as obviously the folks on this podcast might know, like you can do a lot of that by what the intent of their visit on the page was. So let's say, for example, we have people that hit our careers page and they convert and join our newsletter. Well, we don't want our sales team reaching out to them because they were at the careers page. We can actually give them a negative score or automatically mark them as disqualified unless they take another action. If you have a SaaS company and people are hitting your homepage to log in, that homepage might be a false signal that actually is driving people to be in a sequence in Warmly if you don't actually have them triggered the right way. So the automations are as amazing as you want to make them. Typically, our stance is like automate as much as you can without over automating and complicating your future, because future you will hate previous you if you try to be smart in the moment and don't think about like what's going to happen down the line.
Especially as you start to scale your team, I think what we're seeing for some of our customers is they'll set up pretty great automations and stuff, but if they're based on the 2 reps they have, when they add a 3rd rep, they have to go back through 10 automations and then change it for the 3 reps they have. And then they have to go back through and change it for the 4 reps. And so it's about thinking, proactively about like, what are we doing today? But then how am I not going to screw myself over when we scale down the line?
Yeah, we see a lot of that especially when you're a fast moving SaaS company, especially in the early days. Actually, I don't know any SaaS company that's not fast moving, but when you're using, let's say, people's names. So I'm going to assign this to Max as opposed to I'm going to create a user role and I'm going to call this user role sales leader. And I'm going to assign Max as the only person, but I've assigned a sales leader. So now I can seamlessly interchange Max with a new person and not have to go through and update all of this stuff throughout the system, which is quite honestly one of the things that we probably get paid to do quite often. So maybe keep doing it if we want to stay in business, but don't do that if you want to not hate your life in about 6 months.
I think that's right. I'm talking about lead scoring for a second. Would you put lead scoring within HubSpot in the category of beginner, medium, or advanced? And then what are the sort of first steps to get started with a little bit of lead scoring if folks feel ready for it?
Yeah, a lot of lead scoring, I will say that that's one of the most popular questions. Lead scoring and sequences, I think, are 2 categories of features that we get a lot of questions on. Lead scoring on the surface sounds amazing, as does like probably the orchestration inside of Warmly is a similar feature. I think the challenge is you have to have enough data in order for the data to prescribe things for you or be predictive in any way. And what lead scoring used to be built on was the ability to measure, email engagements and opens and that kind of stuff. Well, now we've gone omni-channel. And so we have so many more channels that exist for us to engage that we see lead scoring being really important for SaaS companies because you can see signals inside the platform, but it becomes a little harder to have unless you have something on top of it like a sixth sense or something else that's measuring greater engagement across the marketplace. So I would say it's always very interesting. I have yet to see it be as effective as it's marketed to be when you're not a SaaS company.
I think that makes a lot of sense. In the absence of intent, what I see is that folks talk about lead scoring and they think, certain company size, certain job titles, certain industries that we care about. Wouldn't describe that actually as lead scoring. I would say that's just sort of ICP filtering. And so the set of companies that you could reach out to for sales is out there, and you just filter it down sort of one time. And obviously that can change a little bit as companies grow and, et cetera. But roughly it's here's my TAM through my ICP, right? Total addressable market through my ideal customer profile or persona. And then you have a set of companies. But where I think lead scoring really comes in handy is when you take that total addressable market and you filter it down for who's in market now. And that's what lead scoring can address. But to do lead scoring, you do need some level of intent. And that can come in many formats. There's a lot of different intent data providers out there, first party, third party. Warmly is one of them that offers some of this stuff. But that's where I think when your go-to-market motion is ready to move past just sort of cold reach out to your TAM, that's when you can start to layer in lead scoring with intent.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And knowing what you want to get out of it versus, because it is a constant iteration, just like all things in your tech stack. It's constantly being, you grow and change. And so knowing in 30 days, here's what I want to learn about our customers using lead scoring, and then kind of approach it 30 days or 60 days at a time.
In addition to lead scoring, there's also the different stages of the buyer journey. And you talked about right message at the right time. And some people are not in market at all, and they're just not even problem aware. And then they're problem aware, then they're doing the research. Is there a way to configure the HubSpot so you can sort of send it to the right channel, to the right person with the right message? How do you configure that? Or have you had clients ask for that?
Yeah, I agree with all those things. I wish I had a budget and a timeline to build all of that out for someone. Because to be fair, if we work with a lot of companies where they have a smaller marketing team, and so it's just priority fire. Which are we going to build for right now? And I don't think that's unlike probably every SaaS company too. It's where do I put resources? But I would love to see someone, I haven't had this yet, I'd love to see someone actually put together a schema inside of HubSpot that somewhat classifies them based on whether they're problem aware or solution aware, because you're right. I think a lot of times in SaaS, you're creating the need because you've created something new and they don't know it exists. And so I did a talk a while ago for MarkTech, the online magazine, about lead gen versus demand gen. And I think that's where it comes in is are you actually going out and capturing people that are already looking for your solution? Or are you trying to do both? Or are you creating just the need? Because then how you set your CRM up is going to vary. I would say that, as you look at the buyer journey in HubSpot, you can name your own lifecycle stages if you want to. That's tricky. Tread lightly. But you can set up other properties that allow you to segment and then actually look at that data. But I would argue that most people probably are not as sophisticated in that area as I'd like them to be.
That is unfortunate. What would the dream state for HubSpot configuration look like? Or maybe the one that for your best client who's had the best results using HubSpot, how did they set it up?
Yeah, a dream configuration, we're our own, dog food eaters over here. We're trying our best to build what we need. I think I often look at scenario based. So a dream scenario would be if I'm in a marketing role and I need to drive pipeline, I know exactly who to reach out to, who's expressed interest in the past and needs some agitation to bring them into a sales conversation. That's one scenario. What that looks like from a property standpoint, that might be a mix of properties, that might be some intent. It's probably a challenge for me, and people hear this in my voice. My answer to every marketing question is depends, because it is true. We have worked with a lot of service companies as well. And I'll say that people will come to us asking for SaaS or product type of marketing setup. And we're like, well, that's not really how people buy services. So you have to like apply your industry and how they buy and what that looks like to your scenario. So that's kind of the reason for the like high level answer versus like exactly what that would look like.
All right. And just maybe a quick follow-up. I noticed that, okay, most people use properties. Is there any way to leverage the activity feed to deliver a more personalized experience?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot more opportunities now for automation based on all sorts of things in HubSpot. So we've got AI-based automations now. We have property-based, we have content-based, we do have activity-based now, and there's even now a user object that didn't exist before that allows you to, it's really more helpful for like adoption across the organization as well. But I think because there's so much, this is the challenge that people have when it's like, I didn't know that I bought, a giant Mack truck. I thought I was buying, a Civic. And then as you like uncover these things, you slowly get to put them to use. But I would say we do a webinar every month on the newest things HubSpot rolled out. And last month, I think we go for an hour, and like, I already talk fast, but my business partner, I think, talks twice as fast because there's so much to cover, you guys. So many things are changing. And that, I think, is that actually like the whole challenge overall is, let's say like 8 months ago, I didn't know about Warmly. Now I do. And now I know about 10 other solutions as well and how they talk to HubSpot. If you're just getting into the game or you get out for a month and you come back in, the world changes so fast. So it's knowing what you want to accomplish from a strategy standpoint and constantly being diligent to go back and look and see what's available for you.
Allie, what are the one or two most popular HubSpot hacks videos that our listeners should make sure to check out on your YouTube channel?
Yeah, anything surrounding the forecasting tool, people, use that now. I think there's some new AI tools are baked into that, and that's become pretty popular. Anything related to sequences, we've got one about getting started with sequences. We don't have it published yet, but we'll have one about dynamic sequences coming out here soon. I think probably our the ultimate guide to workflows and forms. So now you can put multi-page forms together and actually embed them on an external website. So, if a person answers this question, they don't get served this question. People were using Typeform for that stuff before. Now HubSpot can do it. So the end of the day is like the more you can do natively with the tool, the better your tracking becomes, and the more you preserve the actual quality of the data, and then that accuracy leads into better outcomes for you, your sales team, your board, all of that kind of stuff.
Awesome. In addition to this, what are some of the things you can build on top of HubSpot? As we kind of covered the basics, you need to clean up your CRM. Thankfully, Clearbit is available, so it can get cleaned, and you have some demographic information behind all your contacts and companies. Next is maybe set up some sequences. Next, set up some workflows. What can you do on top of all this?
Yeah, I'd like to think about so what sort of data do you need to be, how does it need to be viewed inside your CRM from the people that work internally? And then do you have any external partners that need access to that? So let's say, for example, you sell through distributors or you sell through affiliates, and you need to be able to display that data in a way that they can see the deals that they've been part of, but they don't need to see on your CRM. So no-code tools like Softer, for example, can be used to build the object data inside of a password-protected interface that's not HubSpot, but it's displaying HubSpot data. That's one thing. Like now there's tools like Replit, which are allowing you to build sort of an opportunity to build on the HubSpot API using AI-driven code. It's sort of a no-code kind of sitting on the outskirts solution. But I think we're going to see a lot of that. Building on HubSpot is, what data do you have in HubSpot and what else does it need to talk to? And do we need to create environments where this is viewable publicly, but protected at the same time? Because we're now seeing that healthcare organizations can use it because it's HIPAA compliant. It never used to be HIPAA compliant. So membership portals are a huge thing. Customer portals are a huge thing. Customers being able to log in and take a course through your HubSpot portal through a custom LMS. It's kind of a, dream up what you want to do, and you could probably build it now.
Yeah, what's amazing about this is that HubSpot, we're finding for our customers, is the central source of all the information that you're seeing. So your sales engagement platform, your ads, information from ads being synced in, information from website visits, it syncs into HubSpot. And then HubSpot can then pull it all together, synthesize it, one day AI copilot it, and then distribute it back into other channels to deliver this amazing buyer experience. And I remember reading some of your stuff that you think content is one of the biggest drivers for growth. I also believe that too. And so when you think about that section of the funnel where all these people are not in market, the 5% that are, okay, we're going to focus on them for sure. But the 95% that are not in market, can we deliver the right experience at the right time so it doesn't feel spammy, it feels very relevant? and you're building the brand. And that's something I really feel optimistic about, and would love to get your thoughts too.
Yeah, I mean, I think anything you can do to so I do sales too. If I go in and log into my CRM, I don't want to spend time clicking around. I want to understand the person that I'm supposed to be selling to, and I want to understand what their chances are. That's why we're doing what we're doing. We're not doing it. Maybe some of us do it because we like to doodle around on technical stuff. But most of us that are trying to drive revenue are just trying to understand the person who's on the other side of that email or on the other side of the phone call. And I think when we start looking at it as contacts and data points, and we forget that there's people on the other side, that's when things tend to break down. So could we learn this about someone? Case in point, LinkedIn automation. Can you do it with HubSpot and third-party tools? Yes. Is it effective? Yes. Is it effective? No. There's both answers on side of that, because done very poorly, you're just blasting at contacts. Done very well, you're creating relationships. So, and I think the same thing of the Warmly tool. Like if you integrate it with HubSpot, you can get some sense on who's coming to your website. Should you activate them into further orchestration? Should you not? What does that tell you? So you just understand more empathetic things, but I love the idea of building on HubSpot so that if I'm at the end of a buying experience, I'm like, wow, Alan, you really get me. And that was a pleasant experience. And I don't have to screenshot your email and put it on Reddit and be like, don't do this, because we get plenty of those every day of don't do's. It's rare that we get a really good one. And that's what I want to help companies build and have, experience with us too.
Speaking of don't do's on HubSpot, do you have like a list of top 5 don't do's for people who are just starting off?
Oh, goodness. Don't do's. There's so many of them. We have a channel that in our Slack called Vent. And in the Vent channel, you have to use all caps. And you could vent about whatever. You could vent about, your dog. You could vent about HubSpot. But I think one of the don't do's is, Bex, you mentioned it earlier, don't build for one specific person just based on, it's kind of the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Like one person may want something because they're just really, really, really vocal about it. And there isn't like a well thought out implication of how that affects your entire org or your data at large. The other do not do that is harder to, we'll say, roll out if you're tight resourced is don't have a form for every single conversion that you ever do on the face of the earth. Because if you ever want to update your forms, or if you ever want to update like what properties you might be asking people to qualify, you have to go through every single form and do that. So you're better off building forms based on conversion type and embedding those across your different pages, and then having triggers based on page view of form embeds as a post. Third is probably don't use it as its default setup. The first thing you should do in HubSpot is understand, what do you need to see in a contact record? What do you need to see in the feed, and customize it. Customize it for people so that you can see the information fast and what you need, and make sure that, you're using it that way. Let's see, I'll give you one more. One more do not do. Just not paying attention to data quality and data structure. Like you need to audit, you take your car to get the oil changed every 6 months-ish. Audit your portal every 6 months, do a recap, do some cleaning. Like it's not a set it and forget it, even though it seems like it is. It's a set it until the fire becomes big enough that it burns down anything else you want to do in the future, and then you have to fix it. So stay ahead of it if you can.
I'm going to throw in one more, in my opinion, Alan, which is I think that folks should be tracking where meetings come in, assuming that they're the type of organization that creates, meetings booked and creates deals, et cetera. But you track meetings at the channel level. So like this meeting came in because we booked it from LinkedIn, or this meeting came in because we booked it from, calling. This meeting came in because we booked it from email. And that's like high level channel. But I think that as time goes on and as you grow, you want to do a level deeper analysis as to what specifically within LinkedIn or within email or within calling or within chat messaging caused this meeting to be booked. And so having a level, sort of a sub-detail level, has been really critical and useful for our organization. And so the don't is like, don't just track your meetings that are booked at a very high level, try to get one level deeper. So like within LinkedIn, for example, you can have outbound messaging coming from a founder. You can have outbound messaging coming from a sales rep. You can have a social post on LinkedIn that somebody sees and comes inbound because of. You can do LinkedIn ads via like LinkedIn, the ad solution. You can also run automations on LinkedIn where you can auto message, DM people through like one of our partners, Salesflow. And then finally, you can use Warmly to do intent-based automated rep reach outs on LinkedIn. So within LinkedIn as a broader channel, there's so many different sub-details that could help give clues to your go-to-market organization as to where to invest more heavily, that I recommend doing both that high-level channel and that sub-channel.
I think that's especially true for, this might be newer SaaS when they're kind of getting things off the ground, but if you import lists and it kind of clears off any source data because you're just importing everything first, then you really have to get specific on how you're going to track those sources. Do you need to create new properties that are stamped when they convert and all of that? Because I see too many people relying on data like direct or offline, and that doesn't really tell you anything. So yeah, I posted about this on LinkedIn this week. I've been doing a pretty stringent review on promotion of webinar for this upcoming one that's today, and dark social and specific UTMs to track like Slack referrals. Like just knowing it came from Slack's not helpful. What community, what post, and what does that tell you about? And did those people turn into good prospects, not just registrants? All of that's really important to break down.
On this topic of insights, what are like some of the most insightful dashboards, maybe the top 3 that everyone needs to be taking a look at and building on HubSpot?
Yeah, one of the things that we started rolling out to our team, or I guess our team and our clients, is we call it our data health or CRM health dashboard. I think that one, it sounds somewhat rudimentary, but I think it's pretty enlightening. How many unengaged contacts do you have? How many marketing contacts do you have? How many people do you have without owners? How many bounce contacts, like over the scope of time? Like if someone's not paying attention to that, it's kind of the engine hasn't, been serviced for a while. Definitely activity of sales teams. I think holding people accountable to sales results is something that I think is, if you grow up in that, great. If you're a founder that didn't grow up in that and you're trying to figure out how to hire for a sales team or actually hold them accountable, that can be a challenge. And then definitely marketing performance, like back to your note, Max, like tracking on that dashboard, like source and channel performance down to the specifics of that channel and the conversion. Because just getting visits from the website, that's interesting, but laying that over on top of saying, how is that leading to meetings booked? We have one that we're measuring that from like how people are coming in from our YouTube channel and what videos are driving meetings, and do those meetings turn into opportunities? So I think those are all like really interesting things to build in, but having too many dashboards is never the problem. Having dashboards that don't tell you anything is the problem.
Yeah, we see that a lot. Just this is the problem of too much data, and sometimes less is more. Oftentimes that's the case, actually. Allie, thank you so much for your time today. We definitely I learned a lot, and I hope that the viewers can learn a lot too. Please, people, do check out HubSpot Hacks. I actually forwarded this to our CS team so that they can start watching some videos and upskill, and then we'll be using that for our new hires as well. How can people find out more about you?
Yeah, definitely YouTube is one of the places to go. We do, as I mentioned, as we're recording this, I have a webinar later today, but we do webinars twice a month. So if you want to learn about anything HubSpot related, product updates, feel free to check us out at simplestrat.com/webinars.
Great. Thank you so much, Allie.
Yeah, thank you.